This week on QDL, we talked to Robert Fangmeyer, director of the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program, about the latest developments in the Baldrige Program. This year's recipients, communities of excellence, redesigning the Baldrige evaluation process, and a lot more. Join us in 18 seconds. Welcome back to Quality Digest Live. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest. I think most of our audience is familiar with the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. If not, here's a quick recap. It is an award established by the U.S. Congress in 1987 that recognizes U.S. companies that have implemented successful quality management systems. It is the nation's highest presidential honor for performance excellence. But the Baldrige Award is really just part of the overall Baldrige program, which educates organizations in performance excellence management. And part of the program's goals are, there's many goals, but part of those goals are to help organizations achieve best-in-class levels of performance, to identify and recognize role model organizations, which is kind of what the Baldrige Award does, and to identify and share best management practices, principles, and strategies, which is really the educational aspect of the Baldrige program. So the program is very comprehensive in what it offers to U.S. companies, regardless if they're manufacturers or in healthcare or education or not-for-profit or whatever. And today we are joined by Robert Fangmeyer, Director of the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program, to update us with what is going on in the Baldrige program. Robert Fangmeyer, thanks for joining us today.
Dirk, thank you so much for inviting me back to be on your show. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and share information with your audience. Excellent.
So I guess, we should start off with this year's Baldrige Award recipients, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, back in November, the Baldrige judges, first week in November, the judges identified 6 organizations that they thought should be recognized with the Baldrige Award for 2019. And on the 12th of November, myself, NIST Director Walter Copan, and the Secretary of Commerce placed calls to these 6 organizations. And they are very different organizations, but each one really has demonstrated outstanding performance in a number of areas. And as you mentioned, Dirk, the Baldrige Award really is the highest level honor for quality and performance excellence in the U.S. And I can tell you, as a matter of fact, it is also the most rigorous evaluation of its kind anywhere in the world. So these organizations truly have achieved something momentous. And the organizations that are being recognized really have shown sustained excellence across a broad spectrum of their processes and their results. And they span leadership, strategy, their customer-focused and workforce-focused policies, processes, and practices. And then, of course, their product and service-focused operations and their products and services that they produce, as well as their measurement, analysis, and knowledge management processes. For 2019, we have, as I said, 6 award recipients. 2 healthcare. The first one is a large urban hospital in Southern California, East LA, actually, to be exact, and that is Adventist Health White Memorial. A small rural independent hospital from Ames, Iowa, Mary Greeley Medical Center, an organ and tissue transplant center from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Center for Organ Recovery and Education, CORE, the City of Germantown, Tennessee, and the Illinois Mutual Retirement Fund in Illinois, outside of Chicago, and finally, a community college nearby to the Baldrige offices here, the Howard County Community College in Maryland.
So that's an interesting mix. So you had essentially 3 healthcare-ish. The organ, if I include the organ donor one, is a healthcare organization. One that sounded like a government, a local government agency. Is that right?
That's correct. So we had 2 that we would categorize as healthcare, the 2 hospitals. The organ procurement, the City of Germantown, and the Illinois Mutual Retirement Fund were all nonprofits. And then, of course, the one community college's education.
And we should point out again for people who aren't familiar with the Baldrige process, this is a very rigorous process. It's not a fill in the blank, submit your form, and you get recognized by the. I mean, this is a very rigorous. I mean, companies spend a year or 2 years or more trying to prepare to get through the examination process.
For sure, the Baldrige framework is, as I mentioned in my intro, the most rigorous and the most comprehensive of any of the excellence models anywhere in the world. And as I indicated, we cover the entire span of what is critical to an organization, from their leadership to their strategy, all the way down through their results. And the process itself, the evaluation process, requires that an organization prepare a 50-page application in response to the Baldrige criteria. And that 50-page application is reviewed by a team of highly trained and highly capable volunteer Baldrige examiners, and they will spend hundreds of hours individually and as a team evaluating that organization, preparing feedback to that organization, and scoring them against the Baldrige scoring guidelines. The judges will use the inputs from the examiners and make determinations regarding whether or not that applicant organization should be moved on in the process. So not all applicants go all the way through the process. The ones that are the best will receive a site visit, so that team of examiners will then go on site, visit with the organization, and really verify and clarify what was in the application and what the team thought they understood about that applicant organization through the first part of the evaluation process. The judges themselves, they will spend a lot of time reviewing the application, the output from the site visit, as well as a dialogue, multiple conversations with the team leader from that site visit team in order to understand whether or not that organization should be nominated for the award.
Now, I understand that you're changing this evaluation process this year, right? Or you're working on changing it for the future. So what are the changes going to be in this process that you just described?
So, yeah, one thing I want to make clear, we walk our own talk, okay? Every year we go through the process of evaluating what we do and finding ways to make it better. And so, like any organization, we are always striving to get better. And every year we have reviewed the Baldrige evaluation process, we review our training materials, we review everything that we do, and we look for ways to make it better. But I think for a long time, we have perhaps conflated the rigor of this process that I mentioned with a sort of almost an expectation of complexity and a bit of difficulty in going through the process, both for the applicant organization and for the examiners. And so we really decided we needed to take a step back and look very carefully at the process overall to make sure that we were as effective and efficient as we possibly could be with this award process, while still making sure that we protected the rigor, the integrity, and the quality of the evaluation process itself. So some of the changes that are being piloted right now and have been piloted over the past year include a greater opportunity for the examiner team to actually engage with that organization. I mentioned that the evaluation process currently deals with a team of examiners that will evaluate that 50-page application. During that time period, during that evaluation step, there is not an opportunity really to dialogue with the organization. And so that initial review, what we call our independent and consensus review process, that is entirely based on that application. Well, we decided that we would build in the opportunity for the team to actually engage in dialogue with the organization before they ever do any evaluation. So we're building in what we've called at least currently we've called it a virtual site visit, which gives the team an opportunity to dialogue with the organization and to learn much more about their key processes and their results before they ever actually make their determinations on the organization, the scoring for their performance, as well as the commentary that they would prepare for the organization as their feedback.
Is this kind of the idea where people may not or organizations may not be, for lack of a better word, really good about filling out a form, like taking the written test? They may not be really good at taking the written test, but boy, if you talk to them, you can find out a lot more, and you can find out, do they really have a grasp of what's going on? Is that kind of the idea?
Absolutely. There is definitely an art to completing a Baldrige application, and that is almost it's a challenge that organizations face. We ask an awful lot in our criteria. The questions that we ask, it can be challenging to write a response in such a way that you are clear and comprehensive in that response. And so giving the team the opportunity to actually dialogue with the organization will only increase the team's knowledge and the clarity of their understanding of what the organization is doing and the results that they've achieved.
Okay, and so that's at the initial evaluation process. What about further on? Any changes there?
So what will happen then is once the team has gone through their initial review and their, what we've called to date at least, this virtual site visit, after that the team will complete a consensus evaluation using all the inputs that they've received, the application itself and the dialogue with the organization. That information will then go to our judges panel, who will again make decisions and determinations as to which of those organizations should receive a site visit. There will still be an on-site site visit with the organization for those who are finalists, as it were, for the award. And that process is similar, but because of all that has happened prior to the actual site visit, through the virtual site visit and the dialogue, the team will be able to be much more focused in terms of what they drill down on and the things that they need to discuss with the organization. So the process overall, from the beginning through the end, is actually going to be much more efficient. We didn't really talk much about what we asked the examiners to do during that early phase of their evaluation, and I won't go into the details, but suffice it to say that what we're expecting of the examiners in terms of their work product is easier for them to produce while actually being more valuable to the process itself and ultimately to the applicant organization. So that will feed through the entire cycle time for the evaluation process will be reduced anywhere from a third to about 45%. And that, of course, will help increase the value of that feedback that the organization gets. The sooner they get it, the more value it has.
Okay. And before the last thing I want to touch on, because I don't want to miss this, is the communities of excellence. But before we get to that, you've mentioned the rigor of the evaluation process and so forth. But some people don't need or don't want to go through trying to apply for the actual Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, but they want their process to be looked at with the same rigor just to get some feedback. And just briefly, just tell our audience, there is a pathway for that where you can just be reviewed for how well you meet these criteria, right?
Absolutely. Thanks, Dirk. Yes. So many organizations feel that the award is not something that they are necessarily interested in. And I would encourage organizations, you can still go through the award process if you wanted without necessarily vying for the award, because you will get very valuable feedback through the process. However, for those that don't want to go through the full evaluation process and go through that level of effort, we do offer a Baldrige collaborative assessment, and that is a process where we will send a team of very experienced examiners to your site to dialogue with your leadership and some of your folks to understand exactly what you're doing. And we work hand in hand with the organization to perform the evaluation. It's not an us versus them. It is literally your folks and our examiners will work together to do an evaluation, to focus in on the things that you think are most critical for your organization. And they will jointly develop some recommendations for what the organization should focus on.
Yeah, really important. Okay, so last year when we talked, you had mentioned, I believe this was a new program, it was called the Communities of Excellence, which I thought was a really a cool new thing coming out of the Baldrige program. Just kind of recap for that, what that is, and where that stands right now.
Sure, absolutely, thanks. So, Communities of Excellence, this actually came out of a initiative called Communities of Excellence 2026. And that's a nonprofit organization that was formed by two former Baldrige Award recipient CEOs who realized that communities across our nation are really struggling, and they're struggling with things like educational attainment, job creation, health status, and these challenges that they face really require a higher level of performance, a commitment to community excellence that grows out of the recognition that the social determinants of educational achievement, economic vitality, and health status are intricately interwoven. They're all interdependent. And of course, that's what Baldrige is all about. These two CEOs had seen what the Baldrige framework could do for their own organizations by helping them take a systems approach to their organizational leadership management and improvement. And they felt that what communities really needed was a Baldrige-based approach to their own strategy and their own improvement efforts. And so they have been working. It's now 10 years old since they began this process. And we began partnering with them about 6 or 7 years ago. And we have really helped them move this forward. And now there are 18 communities across the United States that are working through a year-long learning collaborative. And this is the third year of these learning collaboratives. And they are working together to create a leadership system within their community that integrates the efforts of businesses, healthcare organizations, educational organizations, and nonprofits in order to come up with a sort of a shared vision for their organization, a shared understanding of what their priorities are in terms of what they need to try and improve, and then working to align and coordinate their resources in order to really make an impact on those various challenges that they're trying to solve. And that's where Baldrige really helps, because if you think about it, in most communities, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of initiatives going on at any one time, trying to address some symptom of some root cause that they may not even be aware of. And so a systems thinking approach that really integrates those efforts and gets them focused on the things that are going to make a difference really will be very powerful. And as I said, we've got 18 communities currently participating, and more are expressing interest all the time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And like I said, this is just an example of how the Baldrige program is more than just the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. It's really an effort to kind of educate people at all levels, from companies down to, in this case, communities, on the value of this process in a kind of a systems thinking toward improving your quality and your customer service and so forth. It's really great. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, Robert Fangmeyer, Director of the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it once again.
Derek, was my pleasure. Anytime.
Okay, thanks, Bob. All right, and that is it for our show today. Once again, thanks for Robert Fangmeyer for joining us. And as usual, if there is someone you would like to see on the show or some topic you would like us to cover, just send those ideas to us at qdl@qualitydigest.com, and we'll try our best to bring them onto the show. So thanks for joining us. We will see you next week on QDL. So long.